Hi, Brenda. Nice to meet you too.
How are you doing? How's your day going so far?
I'm good. It's going great. I can see it's a bright sunny day here. Yesterday it was extremely snowing and it was difficult to survive, but now today it's great. How about you?
Excellent.
How's your
Yep.
day going so far?
Yep. So far, so good. I love doing these interviews. I only do usually a max one or two in a day. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us. I have gone through, reviewed your application, your overall profile, and I've got your resume and I've got it all on this screen. That's just why I keep on glancing over to my right. As well. So the intent today really is to get to know you a little bit better, to learn a little bit more about your background and ensure that there's some alignment between your goals and what the Smith program is able to offer you as well. So with that in mind, I'll leave time for questions towards the end of our interview. But as a starting point, I always do find it helpful just to spend just a very couple, like very brief, just a high level walk through your resume.
Oh, definitely. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak with me today. I begin my career with the Bachelor's of Technology in Computer Science in India. And in 2018, I moved to Canada to pursue my master's in computer engineering at the University of Ottawa. During that transition, I received my first full-time role and later my first promotion at the University of Ottawa, which was a meaningful milestone for me as I was building my career in a new country. Since then, my work has grown at the intersection of technology, delivery, and data-driven decision making, and may also leadership across several sectors, including academia, telecommunications, and the public sector. After that, at the University of at JCI Ottawa, I progressed from director to president, now advisor, supporting governance continuity and leading digital transformation initiatives that improved organizational portfolio visibility. Before that, at the Canada Revenue Agency, I served as a data product lead, delivering an executive performance dashboard used by more than 250 senior leaders to support national program decision making. Later at Ericsson, I worked across product engineering and operation teams, supporting a global data and knowledge management portfolio. And at the University of Ottawa, I led several enterprise IT product initiatives supporting institutional operations. More recently, I have developed my perspective on AI-enabled transformation through agentic AI product work, which has strengthened my interest in contributing at the intersection of data, leadership, and organizational strategy. I'm happy to go into details if you would like me.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's a good start. Um, because we believe at Smith that individuals bring their whole self to the program. Can you share a little bit more about yourself outside of your professional profile?
So beyond my professional world, I'm happy to go and learn new things, right, which can help me to accelerate my career. Also, I make sure I'm up to the trends. And aside from learnings and getting up to the speed, I like to connect with like-minded people with whom I can share my learnings and I can learn from them as well. So I'm a kind of a person who likes to network and make sure I can fit myself between those spaces.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about why this program specifically at Smith and how does this align with your career goals?
Sure. So, what stands out to me about Smith is how intentionally the program prepares leaders to operate in environments shaped by technological change, global uncertainty, and evolving organizational expectations. With that said, that closely reflects the kind of transformation environments I'm already working in today. I'm particularly drawn to Smith's team-based learning model, because throughout my career, I've seen that the stronger decisions emerge when diverse perspectives are aligned effectively across functions and stakeholders. And also, the cohort structure mirrors how I believe leadership actually happens in complex organizations. And at this stage in my career, I'm looking to strengthen my capabilities in finance, operations, and enterprise strategy so I can complement my background in data and technological transformations with a broader investment and operating model decision-making responsibility.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Um, and then can you share a little bit about what your career goals are post MBA?
Definitely. So for me, post MBA plays a critical role in my journey. Over the next, I can say 5 to 10 years, I see myself stepping into a senior leadership roles where I help shape the organizational strategy at the intersection of technology, AI-enabled transformation, and data. So far in my career, I have led enterprise transformation initiatives across education, telecommunication, real estate, public sectors, and academia. And the next step is for me to expand my leading transformation delivery to influence how organizations prioritize investments, strengthen operating models, and scale innovation responsibly as workflows increasingly evolve in the AI era. So I can say throughout my career, for instance, in agentic AI product management, I've already started working with decision intelligence systems that support multi-step reasoning and workflow automation. So in the future, I see myself leading those transformations that help organizations integrate AI into their operating environments in a responsible and scalable manner, while continuing to build strong cross-functional teams and mentor future leaders alongside those outcomes.
Okay, thank you. That's something that is definitely needed in the future. That is for sure. Um, so teamwork is very important at Smith, and just curious to understand like how in what capacity or what would you say, what are the skills and characteristics you would bring to the program that would enhance the program or enhance the experience of your future classmates?
I think it's a great question. Thanks for asking. If I had to summarize it in a few words, I would describe my leadership as well as my team capacity building skills as collaborative, structured, and people enabling. I naturally focus on creating clarity across teams so everyone understands not just what we are delivering, but why it matters and how their contribution connects to the broader outcome. In role like the Canada Revenue Agency, JCA Ottawa, Ericsson, and my teaching experience at Algonquin College, I've often worked with diverse stakeholders and team members. So alignment and shared understanding have been a central to how I lead. And I also place strong importance on developing others and mentorship. For me, I think leadership is about creating an environment where teams feel confident, contributing decisions stays aligned with strategy, and strong results are achieved together. And that balance between structure, collaboration, and people development continues to shape how I lead today.
Okay, all right. And then because nobody is perfect, what has consistently been an area of development that you continually strive to grow and get better on?
One development area I'm intentionally working on is strengthening my exposure to enterprise level financial and investment decision making. In many of my roles, I've led complex transformation and analytics initiatives that supported leadership decisions. But I want to deepen how I contribute earlier in conversations around capital allocation, operating model trade-offs, and long-term strategic prioritization across functions. Another area I can include here is to continue developing and expanding my influence beyond program level delivery into broader organizational strategy environments where decision spans across multiple business units and stakeholder groups. And that's one of the reasons I'm pursuing the Smith Global MBA at this stage. I see it as very intentional step to strengthen the finance, strategy, and cross-functional leadership perspective required to operate confidently at the next level.
Okay, okay. And then from a character perspective, so I can appreciate that's a development or a growth area and that the program will help fill in that gap. But maybe I rewording it in this sense of what has consistently been like from a weakness perspective. What's been your greatest weakness that may have been something that continues to that's something you continue to struggle with throughout your career.
So for me, I think weakness plays a different role when it's put down in papers, right? So I can see it as areas for improvement, as growth opportunities, and a few have really shaped how I lead. So one, I can say documentation and follow through. I learned early that relying on verbal alignment caused confusion. So now I make it a habit to document decisions and scope changes, keeping teams aligned. Another weakness, or I can say the growth opportunity here is progress over perfection. Working in agile taught me it's better to deliver early, test, and iterate rather than waiting for a perfect solution. And finally, I think I've learned that giving teams clear ownership not only speeds delivery but builds accountability and collaboration. And these lessons guide how I enable teams and deliver results.
Okay. How are you? Let's pick the I like the idea of like, the progress over perfection. That's a tough one for a lot of people. What specifically are you doing to try to work through that and kind of work past the perfectionism trap?
Okay, I think perfection, no one is perfectionist in this world, I can say, right? It's all about how we deliver and how we improve over the time makes a great out of it. So I think in my past experiences, I learned that making sure we are up to the speed, the lessons which we gained so far, and the retrospectives which we did on top of those lessons makes the most out of it. So from my lens, I think people who build those strengths while exploring and appreciating their weaknesses are the best ones, and then we can actually learn from those areas as well.
Okay, okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Um, my assumption always is when somebody's looking to pursue like a business degree, a master's level in the topic of business, that they're very well versed with what's going on in the world and the markets. Can you share like what you think are some of the bigger, whether it's disruptors or challenges in the Canadian economy now and into the next 5 years? Like one of the bigger disruptions or biggest challenges, and maybe just an overview and just a little of your own insights and thoughts on that issue.
Sure. So from my perspective, being a business-oriented leader, I see three major forces, right, shaping the economy right now. First is geopolitical energy, uncertainty. Second is inflation-driven operating pressure. And finally, the third is the rapid transition towards the AI-enabled operating system. So if I talk about geopolitical tensions that's affecting the global oil and supply chain continue to influence the energy pricing and supply chain predictability. And I believe for organizations, this directly impacts the transportation cost, infrastructure planning, and capital allocation decisions, making resilience increasingly important. And if I talk about the inflation part, it is one of the structural challenge as of today. Even where says inflation is moderating, organizations are still managing wage pressure and procurement volatility, which requires leaders to balance the cost discipline with the continued investment in long-term capability. And finally, and the most important, I can say transformational over the next decade is the shift towards AI-enabled decision environments. As AI is changing how organizations structure workflows, evaluate investments and prepare their workforce for more data-driven operations, and I think that really connects how these forces is that they are increasingly the importance of adaptive leadership. And if I talk about organizations that gonna succeed, will be able to build based on the resilience, and they really gonna prioritize the strategic as well as they help the teams transition confidently and easily towards through this change.
All right, all right. And so in terms of like AI, can you tell me a little bit more about, yeah, maybe just a little bit more about what your prediction of the future, what that looks like, and how can organizations and uh, I guess people insulate themselves from, because I think the big fear, right, is that people are going to be replaced. And so yeah, just kind of like a little bit more in terms of like your thoughts in terms of where this is headed.
Okay. Definitely. I think I see AI as a shift from task automation to decision augmentation. If I talk about earlier automation waves, agentic systems can coordinate workflows, right? They can easily synthesize the fragmented signals and generate decision-ready insights, which changes how organizations operate and how leaders prioritize work. But now the situation is kind of different, right? And let me give an example. Like when I did my Agentic AI product management certification, I designed the property lease Agentic AI solution that transformed the fragmented market into confident score intelligence brief so that I can support the faster commercial leasing decisions. And that experience helped me understand the successful AI adoption, depending not only on models, but on evaluation guardrails. So as a leader, I'm particularly interested in helping organizations that transform emerging AI capabilities into a scalable strategy and operating model improvements. And I think which is one of the reasons I think Smith Global MBA is an important part in my transition where I can, once I'm done with my MBA, I can actually help the organizations to go ahead and move easily with this fast changing AI world.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. Just a couple questions here in terms of what I consider these behavioral questions, which means that they're looking for a specific example from your past to bring forward. Again, at Smith, we value and pride ourselves that we build, such a diverse class room experience from all capacities, like all walks of life, and build in an inclusive culture. Can you share an example of a time where you worked on a diverse team and your role ensuring that the team was working in a cohesive and constructive manner?
Definitely. One strong example comes from my mind leading delivery of the collections and verifications branch performance dashboard at the Canada Revenue Agency. where I worked with a highly diverse team, including engineers, data scientists, architecture owners, governance specialists, and stakeholders across three directorates with different directing, reporting, and structures and capability KPIs definitions because priorities varied across groups, right? So my role was creating clarity and alignment early. I facilitated collaborative working sessions where teams jointly defined KPIs, transformation logic, and reporting expectations. So everyone understood not just what we are building, what we were building, and why it mattered, right? So throughout the execution, I maintained cohesion through clear user stories, shared delivery guardrails like definition of ready and done, and regular sprint demos that kept the stakeholders engaged and technical trade-offs transparent. As a result, the data accuracy and quality was improved by about 40% and significantly strengthened executive confidence in the dashboards. So I can say that experience reinforced my belief that diverse teams perform best when alignment is created early, ownership is shared, and communication remains continuous. And that's it.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like a successful initiative. In terms of the diversity, can you elaborate a little bit more detail in what capacity or in what capacity were these individuals, these stakeholders diverse?
So, in terms of the capacity, I worked with stakeholders across diverse domains, including finance, human resources, data, support stakeholders, where they came up together towards their explanations and the kind of requirements they want to deliver so that the development team can come up with the product based on their necessities.
Okay, that's great. Um, can you share an example of a time where you managed um, right, where you had a time where you managed various priorities? You had a lot of balls in the air, and you needed to kind of manage, um, yeah, various and competing priorities.
Yeah. So let me go ahead with one strong example when I was leading at a very high priority COVID response technology initiative at the University of Ottawa, where I had to balance competing priorities across sponsors, finance, and IT operations under tight deadlines. The sponsor wanted to accelerate the delivery, finance needed strict budget control, and operations raised valid concerns about team capacity. So, my role was to align these priorities and perspectives without compromising the delivery quality. Hence, I facilitated structured prioritization discussions, mapping request against business impact, user concerns, delivery risk, and technical feasibility. Based on that alignment, we reallocated the capacity toward the highest value work while removing lower impact scope that did not affect the core capacity towards the experience. And the initiative was delivered on time and within budget. And more importantly, I can say the process created a shared framework for managing competing priorities uh, that were really essential during that time for keeping the teams aligned in a complex and highly driven environments.
Okay. For you then, and maybe you can just elaborate a little bit more. What was the complexity there? Can you elaborate a little bit more what was complex about this experience?
I think the complexity during that time was to align diverse stakeholders based on their diverse different perspective because the team was already swamped at that time, and we want to make sure we come up with a consensus solution that can accommodate everyone's perspective and their user needs based on the team's availability and the resource constraints. So making sure people are aligned towards a common goal, that was a kind of I can say challenge in terms of complexity.
Okay. Okay. And how did you go about doing that? Can you elaborate a little bit more about how you went about doing that?
Yeah, so as I said, I facilitated a prioritization discussion where I mapped the request based upon the business impact, based upon the user needs and the delivery risk and the technical feasibility of everyone's solution, right? Like, because as the different stakeholders were demanding different perspectives, and I need to make sure the highest priority and most impactful requirements should be addressed first instead of just hearing their voices. So I always emphasize on the impact and the delivery instead of who is saying what at their highest pitch.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Last question, and then I'll turn it over. Can you share a time where you were the one that made a mistake of some sort and share what the mistake was and what you did to rectify it immediately and maybe what you learned from the experience?
Definitely. I think it's a great question to address the mistakes which we really gonna learn from it. So I can give an example from my time supporting enterprise human resources and finance transformation initiatives at University of Ottawa. Earlier in the program, I encountered a setback when cross-function and team integration dependencies begin affecting the delivery timelines. Initially, I tried to manage those risks within the delivery layer rather than escalating them early to senior stakeholders, which created additional pressure across work streams. So once I recognized the potential downstream impact, I addressed it directly by escalating the dependencies transparently, also realigning the sequencing priorities with stakeholders and make sure I introduce the structure checkpoints, reviews to stabilize the coordination across several teams. Although I can say that was really required resetting the expectations, it helped us to prevent the larger implementation risk and we really restored the confidence across the program. And as a result, I can say, and most importantly, I carried that lesson forward. In roles, I can see later at Ericsson and CRA and GCA Ottawa, I introduced early dependency tracking and rapid visibility frameworks at the start of initiatives, which significantly strengthen the delivery confidence and cross team alignment. And I can say for me, resilience in leadership means reorganizing when an approach needs to change and strengthening the system so teams can succeed further.
Okay. Okay. And can you share an example of when you applied the learning from this experience in a future experience?
Definitely. I think learning plays a critical role as I am moving forward from this experience towards the experience I have till now. So let me give an example. As I mentioned, I was working at University of Ottawa. I was having a setback at the organizational level for making sure we deliver the complete human resources and finance transformation initiative based on the stakeholders' needs. So there I framed the complete framework where stakeholders can easily track if there were any mistakes, how we can overcome those mistakes, and how we can actually excel based on the designated framework.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any other further questions, so we can kind of just take a pause here for a moment.
Thanks, Brenda, for having this interview. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions to ask. What distinguishes the most successful global MBA participants at Smith?
Okay. All right. Good question.
And then
Next.
how do students typically leverage leadership coaching throughout the program?
Okay. Yeah. Good questions. Yep.
And
Any other? Oh,
finally, yeah, just a last one. Are there opportunities to explore strategy and AI transformation intersections through electives or applied projects?
okay. All right. Good stuff.
So
Thank you. Great questions.
that's all from my end. Thank you so much
Awesome.
for having this conversations with me and looking forward to be a part of Queen's Smith Business School.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Harleen. I really appreciate it. It was great meeting you today. And in terms of next steps, as you know, I think speaking with Bethany, that I'll work to compile your interview notes very quickly, and hopefully you'll receive a decision within the next couple weeks.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the learning. I really appreciate this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. How about, do you want me to stop the
I
recording?
think let's not stop. We can discuss it, and then
Okay.
once we are done with the discussion, then you can stop it, right? It helps
Sure.
me to record what we did, right?
Yeah, fair
So,
enough.
because I really wanted to understand, first of all, you should give me a score today because I have a couple of questions which you asked on based of it. So, how was it?
Well, I always turn to you first. I want to hear what your thoughts are and what areas you feel like maybe you could tweak a little and improve.
Yeah, so let's talk about the last question which we discussed, right? The mistake part. I think the mistake one was the last, right?
Yeah.
So I already shared an example. You still asked me for the example. The example was not clear to you?
So that question, what I'm trying to do, that's under the category of sort of surprise questions and because
Or I
I
need
can
to
tell how prepared you are for every question. So I'm trying to get you thinking on your feet. So that really is like, how did you actually apply the learning from that situation in a
Hmm,
future situation?
okay.
So
Okay,
yeah,
because I think I answered in such a way I restated the example, so I understand. Okay, so the learnings which I gained and how those learnings were applied in my today's specific work experience, I should give it another example from on top of it. Okay, I
yeah,
got it.
only if they ask. I think
No,
you answered the
definitely.
first.
It's just a great
Yeah,
thing to create more questions, right? So, okay,
yeah,
let me create because I just explained my learnings, but on top of that, how I'm actually implementing those learning in today's experience. Because
yeah,
I think mistake which I need to, with the way I showed mistake was from my previous experience. Because if I say, okay, I did mistake today and I'm still doing the mistakes in my current experience, that doesn't look good, right? So I need to make sure I can explain and elaborate my previous mistakes from my early career
yeah,
transition part. Okay, I got it because I understand I restated my example. So okay, that was one thing. Another thing, development areas and weaknesses, right?
yeah,
So there I was little bit like what to do, right? Because when you asked me development areas, I gave you example, not an example, but an explanation why I want to join MBA because I really want to explore the strategy, operations, and finance part of it. So those are kind of my development areas. But when you typically pointed me towards the weakness, I gave you weaknesses from my work perspective, like
yeah,
progress over perfection, detail oriented, right? So, what do you suggest? Like,
yeah.
how should I answer this question?
So I will be, there's no, I think, no perfect explanation of the weakness question. I would say my perspective is from the development. If you'd given that answer, I would buy it. I'd probably go, yep, that makes sense. I asked it in development and growth, and that makes sense. So the way it was asked, I felt like you answered it well. Sometimes the interviewer will ask the question about a development, meaning looking for a character weakness, but but technically you gave the right answer, right? You address that development. This is a gap. This is an area that I'm consistently looking to grow. And one of the things that I'm doing, right? The now what you're doing is the Smith program. Um, I do love the way you framed your like I guess I don't know if like for lack of better words, character weakness. Um, my recommendation, or the when I asked the weakness, and you said progress over perfection, and you gave three different ones.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah, because the progress of a perfection was instead of like delivering the whole feature in the end, it's better we can deliver in stages. Then delegation and empowerment, I gave like what I've learned, clear ownership. The first one I gave documentation and follow through. Then other second one was
yeah,
progress over perfection, and finally I demonstrated the team clear ownership. So
yeah,
three I provided you at that time.
yeah. So I would recommend just giving one
Oh,
weakness.
one?
I don't think you have to go and give all
Okay,
three.
just to make sure I should
Yeah,
not sound negative. Okay.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Why give it away, right?
yeah, yeah, why
Yeah,
to give the
yeah,
negative part of yourself?
yeah.
Always show the positivity.
Yeah. Like I would
Okay.
say, yes, but I would say give one, and if they happen to ask, well, okay, but is there anything else? Which they rarely will. But then you can go a
Yeah, yeah.
little bit deeper on one of them, and depending on the progress over
Do I need to give
perfection.
another
And
one, or if they ask anything, do you want to share more on the weakness part?
if they do, you're prepared for it. That's nice,
Okay,
but it'll be
one to
very
two
rare that
max.
they would.
Okay.
I used to do that when I'd mock interview people when I worked at Ivy, just to kind of push and I'm like, give me more, give me another one, just to catch them off, because everyone's always prepared for the first one. So it's nice that you have a couple other
Mm,
in your back pocket, but I would just
okay.
go a little deeper on the one.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, any of them, I like the progress over perfection and the empowering. I think the empowering the teams, those two,
Delegation, empowerment.
the
Yeah.
delegation empowerment too. I feel like those two, yeah,
Yeah,
but
because
that
those
was,
those are the ones which are prepared from my job perspective. So that's
yeah,
why I have.
yeah.
And yeah, you asked me I think the first question was mainly to introduce yourself. You said you walk me through your resume. So now, because last time what we discussed, I know instead of just walking through my resume, and I think I started my journey, let's say you told me, right? Because I have two both the answers right now. I started from my engineering, then masters, then first job, first promotion. But let's say if someone says, walk me through your resume or introduce yourself, I mean, both are connected because in my resume, it's already mentioned I did my
Yeah.
master's, I did my bachelor's. So does it sound good? Like, do you think the answer which I gave you during that time was relevant to the questions you asked?
So I'm going to take a step back here. I have the take, and this is actually there's a little debate in the community, the coaching community, but from my experience and being on the other side doing the interview, when an interviewer asks you to walk you through your resume, tell me a little bit about yourself, provide a brief introduction, I believe they're saying the same thing. They're really, for the most part, and the key messages are similar. So no matter how they ask it, for the most part, I feel like your answer can be the same. That when they say, walk me through your resume, you don't have to legitimately walk through every single
Yeah.
experience. That I would rather you have shared the example that I think you probably prepared for the tell me about yourself, like your story. It's really about your story. It's as if hearing, again, I think I've shared this with you. If you only have 2 minutes to share your story, and that's the only question you're going to get in the interview, what are the key aspects, key pieces of your experience you wish to share?
Mhm. So if that's the question, then I should bypass the master's bachelor's. I should come to the point that I say intersection of data, technology, people, then my JCI, Ericsson, CRA, and finally you auto experience, and last concluding line on maybe AI part. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I think there's value in at least mentioning and acknowledging your education. You spent a lot of time and
Yeah,
energy
yeah,
and
yeah.
acknowledging that as a starting point. Again, my preference, but again, this is me, it's your story. My preference is more linear, starting from the beginning. Like I like how you headline the intersection. Um, and then jumping and going, and it all started when I did my bachelor's in X, and then I decided to come to Canada, did my master shortly after I graduated. I joined as an employee, making it clear because sometimes people like an employee of Ottawa, U of Ottawa, because sometimes people will assume that's an extension of your master's, and you could say, no, I was actually
Uh,
an employee hired on full time as an employee internally. Um,
Oh,
and
that
then
was not internally. I was hired externally. When I graduated, I was looking for my job and then I applied at U Ottawa and surprisingly I received a call. Even, I must tell you in a very brief manner, when I applied and when I received the call, I didn't remember that I applied at U Ottawa.
yeah,
So
oh dear, yeah,
yeah. So that's a lot of things happened, right? And it's
yeah,
with everyone.
yeah.
So okay,
And so
definitely I'll keep those the way
that
I think
those are
the
my biggest pieces of feedback. And then the last piece of feedback I have is when you finish your answers. How do you feel when you finish your answers? Do you feel like, because I feel like it's like sometimes just comes to an abrupt stop, and or it's like you've got a presentation and you're like, yes, I've said that. So, when you
Okay.
go watch it back,
Ah,
and I don't
I
have the
see.
right, I actually don't have the right solution because like I felt like, so anyway, I'm gonna take a step back. I thought you did great.
Mhm.
I'm gonna score you a 9 out of a 10. You're really progressing.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
nice.
your content is great. You're insightful. You're intelligent. You were a lot more authentic this time. And I did try and ask questions, and I'm going to do that more just to catch you a little bit on your feet because I want you to not be caught, like to be comfortable in your own skin and your own key messages that you already know and maybe you just haven't rehearsed.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, so I look forward to seeing what you think when you watch it back. But I don't have specific feedback on how to help you answer. Like I think the linking and the learning at the end, or just kind of like I think just that wrapping it
I
up with a bow or a summary
yeah.
statement. But sometimes I felt
I
like they were abrupt.
I need to ask two questions. So there was one question, one you asked me as AI is changing, what are your thoughts, right, being in the AI? So I think the way I curated that answer, I explain a little bit of AI, how it's evolving, the organizations they are currently facing diverse perspectives and the setback because of the AI is in place, and then I gave my learning experience and what I did during my learning, and then I conclude with the what I'm gonna do after this learning and post MBA. So do you think does it make sense to answer this question in such a manner which I explained to you?
I thought as I was listening to that answer, I was thinking, huh, I don't know if I would bring a personal experience into that because they are looking more just like externally, your broad your perspective, your
Okay.
thought, like what research. But if you were to
How
bring it
AI
in,
is
I liked how you
evolving.
did tie it into kind of the go forward. And this is a leader, like you're like, I don't have a crystal ball. So it's a fair it's fair
Okay.
to default to your current experience and to kind of say, here's the experience, and then because of that experience, here's how I would lead it. So I do like how you tied it. Um, but I think what they might be looking for would be more of like an external
So they
viewpoint.
want to see what is my viewpoint on overall AI evaluation, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, then according to that, I should not personalize my AI learning for this question. It's more from the AI broader perspective, what the organizations are facing, how that AI gonna impact in the upcoming years because of the significant changes the current world is facing. Because the AI is changing as a greater pace. Every day something comes up with the AI
Yeah.
companies, right? So I need to answer in such a perspective. Okay. And last question, I think you asked me at that time, I was confused whether to give it as so there was a question where you asked me how did you I was thinking was that a team based
Oh, to
yeah
contribute to your classmates' experience, positively contribute to your classmates' experience, that question?
if you remember what was that do you remember that question?
Yeah, that's what I asked. Yeah. How
Because
would you,
I thought can you rephrase it?
yeah. So yeah, how would you like, so how would you contribute positively? What characteristics basically do you have that would enhance the experience of your classmates? So I'm looking for your strengths. Again, it's another fancy way
Okay,
of
strengths or leadership style or
yeah,
strengths?
yeah. but customized to like the team and how you would, yeah, what you would bring to the program to enhance their experience. What positive
Mainly
qualities you
my
have.
strengths, because there was one question you asked me on the team based. I think I answered correctly, but yeah, I think you were actually asked me related to this one which you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
The strengths in a more fancy manner.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
that thing I was confused. I was like, what should I say? Is she asking me strength questions or what she wants to know? I just made the question. I just made the answer. I think there was some questions which you asked very abruptly. I just make up those questions, right? So those answers.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
still, I think you did, I thought you did a really good job a really good job overall. And
yeah.
those are the things that I would recommend working on for our next session. So,
Yeah, because I think when you asked me that global issue prevailing in today's market, that question was not giving my original tone because I still need to do some changes, right? As I said, I still need to do, I think there are 3 to 4 questions in the end of this session in the document. I still need to make sure I answer in my tone. So I
yeah.
probably need to do that again as well.
Yeah, yeah, but and I thought that bigger picture question again. I think overall, given where you were, I think in 2 meetings ago, I thought you did a great job in terms of capturing some of the bigger issues that are going on
Yeah,
as well.
and I think the follow-up questions are good, right? Do I need to include other some other, or it's okay what I asked as a follow-up? Uh, do you
Yeah,
think those are
your questions at the end, is that what you're asking me? I thought they were
yeah, yeah.
very good. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
they
the
were very
follow-up
good.
questions are good, right? What I
Yeah,
asked you during the session,
yeah.
like at the end of the interview.
Yeah, no,
Perfect.
I think they're thoughtful. Usually they give like time for 2 questions, but I always think be prepared for a third one just in case.
Okay. And do you think I should ask regarding the next steps, or they're probably gonna say by
No,
themselves, right?
they'll share the next steps usually. And if they don't, then that's something you could reach out to Bethany
Okay.
as well.
So
And
do
and
you have
then
anything to share specifically on how I performed, what I need to improve in the next session? Because I know what to improve, but I need
well,
to know
given that
from
we
your
went
side.
11 minutes over the hard stop at 2, as well, we
Apologize for
keep
that.
doing this. I feel like that and if you watch this back, I thought I gave you some very specific feedback in terms of um the big things. I like to give kind of 3 big things to work on. I don't like to give you like A to Z because I feel like then you can integrate them in. You're doing really well. Your content is good, so keep that up. I would say the weakness question, maybe just we'll work on that a little bit again next time,
Mhm.
as per what I said earlier. And then the ending of your your answers, I think yeah, the
So how
ending
do
of
you
your
want me
answers.
to end? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
because I
watch this
understand what you're
back. I
saying.
don't want to be
I
repeating
understand.
myself, but I
Yeah,
gave
I
you a couple
understand you
suggestions.
said
Yeah.
because when I complete an answer, I finish, okay, done from my side. So do I need to end in a different manner or
So I gave you